everybody, and thank you for joining us for our launch week webinar on the announcement of our new ITDR and EDR response actions. Very excited to dive in today. I see folks are getting into the chat here. Please sound off in the chat. Let us know where you're dialing in from. What are we talking about today? Well, we are going to run through a little bit of ITDR as a category because it is the newer portion of what we're going to be talking about today. I think most folks are more familiar with EDR, while ITDR is a newer category. We're going to look at some of the risks that drive ITDR adoption, as well as keep EDR as a primary focus for defenders to mitigate risks against. Then we're going to look at how we solve. I didn't put it in here, but we are doing a live demo today, so keep your fingers crossed that the demo gods are favoring us. We're going to look at API improvements that we have that were part of this release week as well. And then we are going to go into Q&A. So we'll go ahead and really quickly introduce ourselves. My name's Zoe Lindsey, Senior Director of Messaging here at Blumira. I'm joined by my teammates, Amanda and Eric. Amanda, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Amanda Berlin. I'm the seniors. Oh my God, I can never remember my title on a dime. Product manager of cybersecurity.
Perfect.
And I'm the one running the demo. So hopefully my demo goes better than my introduction.
Perfect. Eric.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric. I am a product marketing manager here. Got the title on lock, and we'll be going over a case study towards the end of our webinar together.
Excellent. Fantastic. Well, let's dive in. So, an introduction to ITDR. Well, Webster's Dictionary defines I'm kidding. I'm not going to make you sit through that. That's my little joke to kick us off here. So, for those of you that may not have encountered it before or be familiar, this was introduced as a category in 2022 and is typically used not as a solo solution. We see situations where folks are coming to Blumira having previously had kind of an EDR focused strategy for their local assets. We almost always see ITDR in use alongside other tools like SIM, like extended detection and response, like EDR. And the risks that it looks to help address, we'll talk about these a little bit more in depth, but some of the largest ones that are out there today: account takeover, business email compromise, credential misuse and abuse. And it helps to protect not just the human accounts, but increasingly we are looking at protecting the non-human identities that are proliferating within all of our environments. It usually includes some combination of continuous identity monitoring, anomaly detection, anomalous behavior, suspicious activity outside of the norm, detections related to Active Directory or an identity provider being targeted, some combination of automated response, and also a level of forensic investigation to help unwind what happened if you do have an incident. As I mentioned, it was a category that was introduced in 2022, and I'm just going to make my slides for myself a little bigger here because I don't have my glasses on. But we started to see this start to surface as a need between 2020 to 2022, largely driven by the shift to remote that we all experienced then. We saw at that time a lot of Azure Active Directory for cloud forward folks, still a lot of on-prem AD as well. EDR was the kind of most universal security spend. Suddenly, COVID forced a lot more folks to work remotely kind of overnight. Cloud forward companies were in a better position at that time than those that were slower at making that hybrid or full shift. And so they ran into a core question, right? Not just on our network, our services, our approved devices. If people aren't in the building, how do you verify who's logging in? This is when Gartner made a word, is how I titled this one. In 2022, they coined ITDR in their top security and risk management trends report. It was the first time that identity protection got its own category independent of the traditional IAM or identity and access management. Rapidly saw a quick number of mergers and acquisitions as this exploded as a category addressing a very serious need. And it went from a interesting idea to kind of a quick land grab pretty quickly. 23 to 25, we see it emerge into the mainstream, a growing trend of organizations compromised via stolen credentials or identity. And then the Okta breach in late 2023, seeing kind of one of those core vendors get hit, definitely highlighted the need for organizations to have this in place as well, not just relying on vendor measures. And now, if you look at the most recent analyst reviews, Gartner now considers ITDR already deployed and is moving into a new category that is also addressing artificial identities, identity visibility and intelligence outside of just detection and response. And so the shift is going from reactive detection to proactive response, catching the indicators of suspicious activity before the point of an actual attack detection and giving a continuous view of identity risk. And this is sort of where we see the market is headed, is giving that, I know this is Eric's favorite, that end-to-end view, not just looking at the endpoint, not just looking at identity, but getting the entire picture across the local cloud environments as well as endpoints and identity. So what's driving that adoption? Well, here is the prettiest slide that you're going to see in this deck. I spent the most time on it, so admire it now while you can. And so taking a look at this, 30% of compromised devices in the 2025 DBIR, data breach investigation report from Verizon, were managed devices. So 30% of them were already being managed by the organization and were still compromised. 90% experienced at least one identity-related incident in the last year, and 84% of that 90% reported a direct business impact resulting. Over 80% of data breaches, successful data breaches, so not just attacks, involved compromised identities. 51% of orgs were hit with business email compromise, and that actually wasn't last year. I think that was the 24 numbers, so that may be even higher for 25. And 60% of the leading attacks that have been tracked in 2024 to 25 were identity-based. And we are talking more about identity today because that is the new part of our service offering. While we have had some EDR functionality for some time, but just as a refresher, some of the top risks that we see focused on endpoints. 46% of compromised devices were BYOD, so no agent in place. 79% of initial access was malware free. So signature or solely AV focused strategies aren't effective on their own. It's a great tool. We are big fans of that Swiss cheese approach. Get that defense in depth. I'm going to revive that one from the grave for a second. But it can't be the solution. You need to also have visibility into anomalous activity and suspicious patterns. The majority, 3/4 of system intrusion attacks included deploying ransomware. And I repeated that stat from the previous page, so pretend you didn't already see it. And then the one here that really stands out, and I'll show you a little bit more visually what this looks like. 88% of breaches in the small and mid-market space involved ransomware compared to 39% across enterprise organizations. So if we visualize that wildly mismatched chart that has a blue line more than twice the size of the green is what that looks like visually represented. And it makes sense if you think about it. Your larger enterprises is where you're going to see targeted insider attacks, espionage-focused attacks, nation-state focused attacks, while the majority of targeting of small and mid-sized businesses is focused on cybercrime. So making sure that you have visibility on that identity and endpoint, because these threats inform each other. Oftentimes, the beginning of a endpoint attack is going to be a phishing email sent to a business account. Oftentimes, one of the goals of a compromised endpoint, if there isn't access to an identity, is going to be trying to steal or capture by an adversary in the middling that connection request. So these are very, very related risks. Before I go into kind of some specific attack examples, Amanda, Eric, any thoughts on those or anything I didn't touch on that really stands out to you?
I mean, we're seeing that day to day across our entire customer base is exactly what you talked about. So the business email compromise, the identity-based attacks, is a very large percentage of
Mhm.
just what we're seeing day to day.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't hurt that Microsoft 365 is probably the closest thing that we have to like a universal integration. It is by far the most common that we see
Mm.
across the platform. But also, if you look at the aggregate findings, 365 is a first stop, if not the first stop of choice. So definitely, we wanted to make sure that we were getting focus on that area of defense. So you can see what happens if you don't have a strong anchored on either side of that bridge between identity and endpoints. See the visual metaphor we have going here.
Amazing.
But some of the common attacks that you'll see: credential stuffing, password spraying, adversary in the middle attacks that I mentioned. These are often really key in session theft or token theft attacks. Phishing and social engineering, which you'll see on both sides of this column, because as I said, these kind of inform each other. Oftentimes, after a account is compromised, it will be used as a launching pad for further phishing attacks. Account takeover and business email compromise, both presenting their own risks. One is the primary communications channel and kind of common keys to the kingdom of sensitive information. An account takeover, that is the keys of the kingdom for access, right? Oftentimes that's being handled through single sign on or an IDP. On the EDR side, software vulnerabilities. I like to say a lot of, I don't know if anybody else says it that way out loud, but it's satisfying to say, living off the land based attacks that are misusing tools that are expected to be seen on those endpoints. Attacks really where the endpoint itself isn't the target. The endpoint is just the way in or an extra wedge in the door to make sure that they can get persistence and get back in later. It may just be a network foothold to pivot from. I may get enrolled into a botnet. I think we've got a good story for Blumira briefings tomorrow talking about a current case of that. But the two big ones is ransomware. The single most common word asked in our website chat is how to stop ransomware. And if you're looking at the more recent data, info stealers is a quickly rising attack vector as well. So you probably are seeing one or two things in here that are an active topic on your mind to make sure that you've got a good strategy in place for. And we're here to help. So this is how we are solving with the expanded suite of responses available for identity and endpoint related threats. You are able to disable an Active Directory user. That is, if you have them linked, and Amanda will talk about this a little bit more in depth, that can apply to both local Active Directory as well as Entra ID users. And you can disable that user and revoke all active sessions, which is really handy if you identify at some point after that initial intrusion that there may be access. You can just flip that switch and end all of those potential sessions.
Yeah.
On the EDR, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say what we wanted to make sure that we solved for here was that so many of you out there do have hybrid environments. You have an Entra, and then you also have on-prem AD somewhere. And there not a lot of solutions out there that can hit that identity with just the one button. So you need to make sure that you don't have any local resources that are using that identity. You want to make sure there's no cloud resources using that identity and you know, every now and then, if it syncs back and re-enables something that you've disabled, we didn't want that to happen either. So that was my favorite part of implementing this was being able to work on that identity stuff and make sure that worked across the board.
If you imagine a hole with, or a bucket with two holes in it, you're not going to get very far at plugging up a leak if you just plug up one of those holes, right? So you need to make sure that you're doing a coordinated effort to prevent that attacker from finding their way back in the door.
Next version of slides for this, we need a bucket with 2 holes.
It's true.
Yeah.
I just thought of that now, but it seemed like
Yeah,
a good
that's
metaphor at
great.
the time. And then on the EDR side, so you may be familiar already, Blumira is able to isolate and de-isolate hosts while doing a investigation. Now there's a lot more granular actions that you're able to take. You are able to kill a process or a process tree. You're able to disable a local user. So we talked about directory users in AD or Entra, but you're able with EDR to disable a local machine-based user, and you're able to delete a file. So this is a neat little menu of options that you can choose from, but let's look at some kind of real scenarios where you would use this. So you can stop suspicious batch scripts from running. A suspicious batch script finding, which is one of the findings in the Blumira suite, fires in your dashboard. The responder can triage and remediate by killing the rogue process and tree and then deleting the script. You could also isolate the host while you are going through this process, but I couldn't fit all of that into the subheadline. On the account takeover side, you can disable that user and revoke sessions in one click, a couple of clicks from the finding. The example here being you have an impossible travel finding show up that a user's AD creds are logging in from a impossibly distant location, and you know that this isn't a VPN endpoint or some other expected activity. You can remediate by clicking to disable that user and revoke all of their active sessions. And you can quickly stop ransomware before it is able to spread. So you can get a finding for a bulk data export and set that up to isolate the host, or depending on how you've configured your settings, I believe that's one that you are able to set an auto isolate flag on, priority and category. Amanda, keep me honest.
Yep.
Um, but you would be able to isolate that host while you investigate, delete the malicious file, so that that infection is quickly contained and cannot spread further throughout your environment. And I'll vamp for a moment while giving Amanda time to verify
And
that.
also, yeah, I'm not gonna have time to verify right now, but I am set up for my demo.
Awesome. Speaking of, we're not just going to make you sit here and listen to me describe potential situations. We want to actually show you what it looks like. So it's demo time. I'm going to go ahead and share over to Amanda.
Alrighty, let's see if I can find their desktop. There we go. You need the whole thing. So can you see it all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. We need the whole thing because I'm gonna take you back and forth between this and a host that I have in AWS. So one of the things that Zoe mentioned was the living off the land. That's one of the things that I think is pretty cool to show a demo on for the EDR actions. In that we have the ability to stop an entire process tree. So right now, this is my remote host in AWS. I'm going to open up a command line. And then I have a cool command right here. And this is actually going to use a PowerShell invoke web request call. So I'm in the command line, right? But this is going to spawn off a new PowerShell window. And then it's also going to invoke this web request, which many times we see ransomware and other malware do to get around PowerShell execution bypass policy. And this is just gonna, download this file, save it, and then start this PowerShell window kind of above it. So I'm gonna hit on this. All right, so you can see my little "this is fine" dog. We'll go down here and see that we have command line listed as well as PowerShell. Where'd it go? My process explorer has been acting weird, but there is a PowerShell that spawned off of this. So it'll show in the finding. So I'm gonna refresh my finding page. And I have this PowerShell download invocation. So in here, you all will notice that we have this new response action section. Now for the thing that I talked about earlier with the identity stuff, you actually would need to have the 365 response action set up, as well as having a Blumira agent listed as a domain controller, right? Because we have to know where the domain controller is so we can run the right commands. So under here, though, you see the different options that we have for ITDR and EDR. I'm going to do a kill process tree. And then after that, I'll show you kind of the other thing that we have to designate where your domain controllers are. So I'm going to look down here. Well, actually, if I just click kill process tree, we'll see that the process ID is 11200. If I go down here, we'll see we have 11200 and 6204. That's my workstation. If there was a bunch of stuff here, I could search through it. I could multiple select, and I could kill all of these processes on anywhere that they spawned. Same thing with users, same things with files, anything like that. You can actually do multiple actions with one run button. So I want to make sure I highlight this process so we can watch it get killed. So 11200. Oh, yep, I'm already on 11200. And, oh, sorry. What was the other one? 6204. And of course, they're not next to each other. 60. Oh, yep. Come on. 6204 is this PowerShell listed right here. All right, so you can see the invoke web request right there. And then we have the PowerShell, the command line down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to run this. So it says response action initiated. It tells you that it's in progress. If you click more, you can actually see what's going on and what it's doing. If we go over here, I'll bring this up so you can watch it get demolished. And then the 6204 was up here too. Beep. On average, it takes 20-ish seconds. So
And while that's running, Amanda, we got a question. Are you able to disable the user if you're just using Entra, or is it only
Yep.
disabling if you're hybrid or async?
Yep, you can also do it with Entra. You'll actually see back here, you'll actually see Microsoft 365 and it listed there as well. If you just have Entra. So yeah, that actually completed. It says it completed successfully. Both processes have been killed. So you killed the entire tree right there. Another thing, if anybody has used it before, we had this isolate host and de-isolate host, but it was buried within the Blumira agent itself. Now it's all in one place. You can run these actions all in this response action accordion. So I'm just going to show you real quick about isolating the host, because that goes real fast.
And we got asked here if the host is isolated. Oh, actually, one more above that. Oh, hi, Michael. I've edited a video about previous time that you spoke on one of our webinars. Good to see you. Are the response actions available if you're using agents, or is it tied to your Blumira edition? Well, it is enforced through the agent on the EDR side.
Sorry, say that again.
Are EDR response actions available if you're using agents, or is it tied to your Blumira edition? It would be, I guess, both, but editions that have agent access would be able to use the EDR actions.
Additions that have response capability with
Yes.
Blumira agent. If you can already isolate hosts, you're fine. You can do all of these. No additional setup needed.
And then if a host is isolated, will the stopping of scripts, killing processes, etc., still be available while that's isolated? Are responders able to intervene before bringing that host back online?
Yes, they are.
That's what we like to see.
And there was that small demo. So yeah, de-isolate and isolate host right away. And then what else I wanted to show you was if you go dive into your Blumira agent devices, we have this new domain controller column listed right here. And you can see right here that it knows which one my domain controller is and where I can run those commands on. Right now, you do need a designated domain controller for those to work. In the future, we're going to we have plans to find it for you. So it will auto select based on the fact that we know that it has those roles on it. And then yeah, I think that's it for my demo.
Marvelous. I will go ahead and steal back the share here as soon as I can figure out where my presenter window went. There we are. And some folks have already been getting a sneak preview of this, which cues up Eric. Eric, tell us a little bit about TR Computer Sales.
Sure thing. Thanks a lot. I just want to take a minute to highlight one of our MSP partners, TR Computer Sales, that's been testing out our new ITDR and EDR capabilities. And so, just to highlight a little bit of what they've been working on and dealing with in the past, previously their core challenge was speed of response. And even with the strong visibility that they had through Blumira, taking action on their security findings required jumping between tools. And that's especially for endpoint response, which slowed down which slowed them down during active incidents. And with the introduction of our new response capabilities, that workflow completely changed things for them. So with ITDR and EDR, it's been especially impactful when dealing with phishing compromises, cookie theft, and man-in-the-middle attacks for the TR team. Now, instead of switching between dashboards, they can respond directly from within the Blumira finding to isolate and revoke those sessions when there is an active incident. For TR Computer Sales, it's not just about detecting threats, it's about acting on them immediately without added complexity. And just a quick quote from Matt Tim, their NOC team lead over there at TR. He can say things a little bit better than I can. We're stopping breaches in seconds instead of minutes or hours. Now I don't have to find a password, log in, get to the user, revoke MFA, change the password. I can do all of that in one click. So good things to hear from the TR team. That's a little tongue twister there. But just wanted to shout out that we're always testing our features. If I have any hand raisers out there, also anybody that would be interested in doing a case study interview with me at some point. I believe we have Lee from NCIGF in the crowd
Yes.
today. So yeah, Lee and I did a nice interview last year. So promise, absolutely painless, but would love to chat with anybody if they're interested.
Don't miss out on that opportunity. I assure you, Eric is delightful to talk to on the phone or on a video call, so we can get that set up for you. And we talked today a fair bit about the new, right? The new things that we're bringing out. Part of keeping up with a quickly evolving threat landscape is making sure that we are being equally agile and looking at ways to help centralize security operations, keep them manageable for folks. And that means that along with that kind of those core functions that we built out from, we want to make sure that you have the ability to do as little platform hopping as possible. I was reading an article this morning that AI-driven attacks are exfiltrating in about 72 minutes. So it doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you don't find out that that is happening until you get the bulk export alert. You want to be in front of that, right? But we are also continuing to improve features that we introduced to extend what they're able to do for you. And so we're excited to talk about some additional API improvements that have been put in place that turns our announcements into a conversation. Amanda, do you want to talk about these?
Yeah, so this is the next evolution in our public API. And I am a huge proponent and keep on asking our engineers to just keep on adding more features in here because I know how much of a force multiplier that is for literally everyone. Um, and it just gives you the ability to do more things in bulk, more customizable actions, all of that kind of stuff that you already have built into your processes and procedures and infrastructure and everything else. Some of the cooler ones I think are the first three, where you're now able to post. You can add notes to findings, you can assign them, you can set the different statuses. That way, if you have a ticketing integration that we don't have on our roadmap, or we don't currently have, you can do all of that yourself. Right. You can create your own API connection that works with your either your PSA or what other ticketing system that you might have. And then we also have a couple other endpoints now. So we have users and resolutions, which really is just a small endpoint that you can look up users by their UUID. Same thing with resolutions. And then we have an evidence endpoint, which is also pretty exciting. That will let you look and receive all of the evidence per finding. So before on the findings endpoint, you could get analysis, you could get um, the name, the status, the type, all of the kind of things about the finding itself to kind of create a ticket on. This is just giving you more context that you normally go look for when you're in those findings. And it also gives you the ability to set kind of your own alerting if you want to know if evidence has been added to findings that you've already potentially worked.
And we are going to have more coming. We have more coming down the line here and are likely to have another launch week pretty soon, hopefully before summer break for folks. I'm going to go ahead and stake my claim on that now so that I can look really silly if we push it out later. But I'm going to open it up and ask folks to drop in your questions. So we have our Q&A menu. You can, yeah, so matched evidence is now in the API, which is fantastic. Very glad to see that we got that addition in there. So go ahead, add your questions in here to the, yes, drop that in the chat or it doesn't show up in the recording, Amanda. That's my favorite. People who actually come live. This is the hook. This is the cliffhanger to come and join the live session is you get the inside scoop in the chat.
You'll always get the inside scoop if you ever book a call with me. How about
Also that.
I can't keep my mouth shut on some of these things.
And so a question came in here, is there a recorded webinar that goes over these capabilities, requirements, etc.? So we did add a more kind of just the facts man version of the different response actions and what those look like. Karthik, if you want to send your question in, we'll be happy to address it here. And so that demo video is posted on our YouTube channel as well as in a post, in Amanda's post on our blog from Monday. So feel free to take a look at those. How long of a delay is there between setting a host as isolated and it's actually being isolated? And how long is the delay when you de-isolate?
So it's going to depend on a lot of things. Mine is set up just like any customers. I don't have any, you know, boost settings or it's not in development or anything. Like I'm actually using production Blumira and a host in AWS. It was almost instant. I was clicking around there. You couldn't really tell, but I didn't have access to click on everything. It was done. It kicked me out of my RDP session right away. But you all know, like, lag and networks and buffering, like all of that kind of stuff can kind of come into play. It, could be that somebody's on a really slow internet connection in a remote site. You don't know necessarily for sure that it's going to be right away. But it is very speedy every time that I've tried. Um, so not much of a delay at all.
Excellent. Question on if we have upcoming bug fixes in the investigate endpoint.
Hold on. No, yep. Yes. Well, sorry. So nothing currently planned for the investigate. I think you mean not necessarily the API, but you mean like investigate in the product. Um, we actually have a new giant feature set that we're releasing here in a month or so, that may alleviate a lot of the bugs that you're experiencing in investigate. I think that's probably all I'm allowed to say on here.
Excellent. I got a quick one here, Andrew. Yes, we will have a recording of today's webinar. We'll be sending out a recap of everything that happened during launch week, and including the webinar recording. If you want to bookmark it, the registration page that you went to is actually what becomes the recording version afterwards. Thank you for getting to that, because I was going to take a long time trying to read it. Amanda, we got a
No, it's
question
fine.
asking what the PowerShell command was that Amanda used in the demo, and dropped that in there. I am seeing, I think we got to the questions here. I'll give folks one last moment to add any others that they have in the Q&A menu or drop them in chat. And we want to hear back from you, right? We want to know the API, correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, but the additional API development was prioritized and moved forward because we were getting feedback that was looking for that additional functionality. So
Yep.
you got to speak up. If there's more that you want to see, let us know. We are very responsive to our incoming feedback and are trying to address the problems that you're running into in your business. So you can go to blumira.com/ideas and add your feedback there and see what we have coming up soon. And I think that is it for Q&A.
Yep, I did wanna say too that, just to tack onto that, Zoe, is I put the Blumira.com/ideas into the chat. Anytime you wanna add stuff that goes directly to both Michael, the VP of product, and me. And then always reach out to me if you ever want to try and get into one of our betas. We have a lot of them always going on. And I'm always looking for product feedback, good, bad, ugly, and to get you on with our engineers and designers just to make sure I'm trying real hard to make a product I would have wanted to use when I was in your shoes.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I'm gonna do the very corporate thing. I'm gonna give you 20 minutes of your time back, because I know a lot of folks are joining us today, coming in during their lunch hour. But please keep the conversation going. Please visit that blumira.com/ideas, add your feedback. We are happy to help support and address those problems with you. Until next time, folks, stay safe out there. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.